So let's talk about it. Let's talk about how long does it take to build that portfolio? Because we did talk about portfolios.
Yes.
How long does it take to build up a portfolio?
So I think personally for me, it took a good year actually to build a strong enough portfolio in order for me to say, and again, like going back to what I said earlier, I'm my own worst critic, and I already had the advantage of coming from a creative background, and I know how important a portfolio is to represent this creative, this designer, or this artist. So knowing that, I gave myself a good full year of styled shoots, trying to get published, doing weddings in between, and I'd say 1 year for me. However, everybody's journey is different. And maybe for some people to build a portfolio, it's very interesting because it depends on what creative you are. If you're a photographer, maybe it doesn't take that long for you to, but it depends. But me personally, I think you should put the time in and spend at least a year to get yourself at a point where you're confident enough to showcase your service to people. It takes time. So don't run before you walk. You know what I mean? Gotta take your time.
So how do you overcome failure? Because some people look at failure as to give up.
Yeah.
And some others look at failure as to basically a learning curve.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that process?
So failure is a very strong word, and it's a word that people use lightly. Again, what is success and what is failure? It's perception. It's based on opinion. Like the creative industry, and this is the toughest thing about the creative industry, everything's based on opinion. So failure is something that shouldn't even be in your vocabulary, actually. Failure, if I was to class things, I failed a long time ago then. If I would have put failure as a description on some of the things that have happened to me over the last few years, I think that word, I failed or failure, is something that we have to be very careful that we don't even interject or talk it into existence. That would be my advice to any person that wants to start a business. And I'm not saying that you have to be in la la land and problems don't occur. Problems definitely occur. I've faced so many issues already. But do I see it as a failure? No, I've just transferred that and seen it as a lesson not to do next time, or to take from that failure that some people might class, just to educate myself and try to, better it next time. So I think failure, if I'm trying to give advice on how you should try to avoid thinking that you failed, don't put a time on things. This is something that I would say if you take away a timeline, and you say, because let's be honest, this is how people think that they failed. They think that if there's a certain timeline, and I'm saying to you, you know what, guys, if I haven't made my first million in the next 12 months, I'm a failure. I've failed. Why? No, I haven't failed. Why am I putting myself under that type of pressure? So I say my advice to any person, and to any young Eritrean, or to any young person that wants to start this new journey, don't put a time frame on things. Let things work holistically, organically. Let them come when they're ready. So that's how I would try and rephrase the question. Yeah. I'm a typical creative, because any question you ask me, I'm going to give you a artistic, creative answer, if you notice. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
No, what you said was had logic. It makes sense. What was the difficult thing about building a brand from scratch?
You know what? Probably quite a lot of the stuff I've mentioned actually is okay, how do I say this? Basically, the patience part of it is tough, because naturally I'm not a patient person. I'm not patient at all. All my friends and family would be able to tell you this. I move fast. I'm fast. I like to, my speed is very fast with a lot of things in life, and starting my business was a big lesson for me, and learning to understand that it's not going to happen in my timing was something that I learned. Patience was key.
Yo, I don't need a coach. I don't need advice.
Okay, good talk, coach. Thanks.